Hey up and welcome to the Strategy Sessions, episode 8, season 2, but also, importantly, it is the first episode of 2022. So happy New Year, but it's what, the 18th of January today? Probably a little bit too late for Happy New Year territory, but if you do want to wish me happy birthday, it's on Sunday. Please send me lots of nice things, chocolates, and, well, anything else that rather balding middle-aged chap might like. You're not here to listen to me talk about my birthday. You're here to listen to Ash Young talk about Carmax.co.uk. Ash will get into all the juicy details, but I really wanted to bring on what is a really interesting direct-to-consumer brand because there's a great story behind this. Ash was sat there twiddling his thumbs during the first lockdown thinking, what the hell am I going to do with my time? And he decided there and then that he was going to launch a Carmax business. There's a little bit more to it than that. But you might be thinking, Carmax.co.uk, is this really very interesting? Well, if you've heard of many other lockdown businesses that went from no business in March last year to turning over 4 million a year now in January 2022, please send them my way and I'll get them on the show too, especially if they do more interesting products. But until then, have a listen to Ash Young talking about Carmax.co.uk and how he turned it from an idea into an empire. Here we go. Ash. Today, I am joined on the Strategy Sessions by Ash Young, the founder of Carmax.co.uk and Evoluted, an agency based in Sheffield. Ash, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Really good, thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. You are the man with the best ceiling we've had on the show so far. So thank you for having us inside your new house. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm, as you said, I'm the founder of Evoluted and Carmax.co.uk. So I've been in digital for a long time. I got into the sort of the web essentially when I was very young, and when I left university, that's all I really wanted to do. So I've never had a real job, which I absolutely love. I've only ever done this for clients and for myself, and really I love trying things out and seeing what works, and that's what I get the passion comes from, actually, figuring stuff out, learning how to do something and then going and applying it.
Brilliant. Well, look, tell us a little bit about the Evoluted journey and how you grew that business. But we are going to spend the bulk of today talking about Carmax, a seemingly dry product. And I'm not trying to rain on your parade or piss on your chips or anything like that. It's fine, but it's quite a dry product, but a really, really fascinating story. So tell us a little bit about Evoluted first, then we'll bore everyone to tears about Carmax afterwards.
Yeah, I'll be really quick on the Evoluted stuff. So we're a digital agency based up in Sheffield. So we're a full service agency. So we offer design, dev, and all the digital marketing services. Obviously, you can check us out. You can see what we've done for the Carmax business, and that's what we do for clients, basically.
Brilliant stuff. And look, so please do check out Evoluted's website. There's a link in the show notes. And Ash, as you can see from here, is a lovely chap. So if you do want to work with him, click the link, get in touch. But let's talk about Carmax.co.uk. You're one of those hateful people, right? When the first lockdown came, I started watching documentaries on Amazon Prime, changing my sleeping habits, making confident predictions that the pandemic would be over in 6 weeks, and I didn't really need to worry about it. I got that massively wrong. Some people started learning languages. Some people started doing all sorts of new things and crafty and sourdough baking and banana breads and all that. You started a business, and I hate people like you.
Sorry.
Tell us what happened. Were you just bored one morning and thought, right, that's it, I'm going to start a business? Or is there a little bit of a longer term plan in this?
There's a little bit of a longer term plan, and I suppose it was happening a little bit on the run up to lockdown, the first lockdown. So really, we do a lot of work for clients. We do great work for clients at Evoluted, but I want to be able to do that for ourselves and actually show that we've got what it takes. And it's very different running an e-commerce business for yourself than it is marketing a client's business. You get to learn a lot more. You get a lot more involved in a lot of the decisions that clients essentially try and keep you away from, and they don't want you to get involved. They only want to give you some information, not all the information. So I really wanted to do something from start to finish that was ours, that we could point to as a case study. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted something that, for me, was a new business, a new adventure, something to get my teeth stuck into.
Yeah, Brilliant. And that, look, running an agency, especially an agency the size of Evoluted, is a fairly all-consuming full-time sort of gig, right? And but Carmax.co.uk, while is a client of Evoluted, I think I'm right to say, it is actually still a separate business that needs its own looking after. So, for example, I saw on social media you were manning customer service all across Christmas. So it is effectively, you are doing 2 full-time jobs. Is that broadly where you're sitting at the minute?
Probably not doing 2 full-time jobs. The team at Evoluted are absolutely awesome. And one of the things that we've got as we've grown over the years is we've got a great management team in place. So Giorgio and Sam, who run the marketing and the development teams at Evoluted, do an amazing job. And they take a lot of the load off me, which is great. I think the lockdown also really helped that I had the time to focus on Carmax. So that first lockdown, you couldn't get clients on the phone. They didn't want to speak to you because they were dealing with their own issues in their own business about how do they get their staff working at home, how do they get their IT to work. So actually that gave me loads of time, because I normally talk to clients, essentially spend most of my time doing. So I had a lot of time to really focus on the Carmax business and get it off the ground, basically, which really helped. But yeah, these days I do try and split my time. So I have big blocks of time in my diary where I try and split it between both businesses, because as you say, like the Carmax business now will turn over about £4 million this year. That is a business in its own right.
That's a hell of a lockdown project. So before we get to the big juicy numbers of 4 million turnover this year, take us right back to the beginning. So firstly, why Carmax? Why not anything else? Why not windscreen wipers or whatever? And secondly, tell us about where you got Carmax.co.uk from, because I think there's a bit of an interesting story in that as well.
Yeah. So why Carmax, I suppose, is it's a boring product, like you said. It's a utility product. Everyone needs Carmax. Everyone that's got a car uses Carmax. They don't really think about them until they need them. But it was an industry that I suppose we came across at Evoluted quite a few years ago when we worked with a client in the sector. So we got introduced to the sector, which is one of the bits I absolutely love about Evoluted, is getting out there, meeting new people, meeting new businesses, and finding out about industries that you never knew existed.
That's it. Same, mate. I'm never happier than in the opening couple of sessions with a client where you're like, right, tell me all about ball bearings or, all of these bits. I'm like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And you're just like, there's a whole world here that I never knew anything about. That's like the highlight.
It is amazing, isn't it? Yeah. We had a bearings client as well. It's just like fascinating.
Listen, me and you are the same kind of boring, right? I love it. I absolutely love it. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So, so really, it was an industry I knew about. So for me, it's an industry where actually the competition wasn't tip top. No offense to the competitors. So there's a lot of scope. There wasn't anyone there absolutely killing it. But then I managed to actually secure the domain name carmax.co.uk, which made it a no-brainer, right? So the kind of story behind that's kind of quite convoluted. There used to be a site on that domain years ago selling Carmax from Northern Ireland. And beautiful place. Yeah, it was now defunct, just didn't go anywhere. And I used the domain tools Who Is History. Because of GDPR, you can't see any contact details now. But if you use the domain tools Who Is History, you can see it pre-GDPR. Mm-hmm. Found a phone number and basically just started calling people and getting passed on to other people. It's not us, it's this guy. Managed to finally get the chap that owns the domain on the phone, and we just did a deal.
Brilliant.
And yeah, that was the best, like $5,000 or whatever that I've ever spent, I think.
so if you look back at, if you're listening to this and you've been in SEO for a little while, you might be thinking that, Carmax.co.uk, you don't need a keyword-rich domain anymore. And if you're not in SEO and you're listening, you're thinking, what the hell is he talking about? There used to be, going back into the good old days, if you wanted to sell something, you wanted to have the domain that said the thing that you sold, right? But there's different reasons why you wanted that domain.
Yes, I mean, obviously, it's great that obviously all the links now, and everyone talks about the business, it's an automatic link back. Brilliant. But the reason that we really wanted it is it's that brand identity. So if you're carmax.co.uk, you've instantly got some sort of authority in the consumer's mind. Mm-hmm. You've not got a really long, strange URL. You are this site to buy Carmax from.
Yeah.
Just from the domain. Yeah.
I love I'm not even going to call it a resurgence, because brand has always been a really important tool in a market that's boxed to play with. And I think what is a resurgence is the fact that people in more technical roles are starting to realize that. I'm not saying you didn't realize that, but if you talk to people in SEO or PPC or even social media to an extent over the last 10 years, quite, it's brand. It's just that's the fluffy thing that people talk about when they don't know what they're doing or when they don't want to measure ROI.
Yeah.
Are you sure that's what brand means? People with a misunderstanding of the concept of brand telling you it wasn't important, but it's more about that. Just it's an obvious association. That's what you were looking for with Carmax.
The obvious association. But you're right about brand though. So a lot of car mats that are sold are unbranded. Mm-hmm. If you go look at the car mats in your car, there won't be a brand on them.
Yeah.
And actually, we now brand all our car mats. They all go out with our big shiny logo on them, which some people don't like. But for us, it's a net positive. We get a few detractors, but actually getting our brand out there and becoming that de facto name for car mats is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, the number one play, and allows you to charge a premium in the end when you get to that point of being the place to go for it. So, yeah. Now I'm assuming when you started working in the car mats industry, you weren't making them. You didn't get the family in the garage and starting to produce car mats on a sewing machine and running that up. So as a marketer and a man who runs an agency, what was that like, having to sort of roll your sleeves up and get involved in production and sourcing and all that sort of stuff?
It was an interesting month or two when I was trying to find a supplier. So I literally just went to Google, and this is the question that I get probably asked the most is actually, how did you find a supplier? Because that's not the obvious bit, right? In digital marketing, we know how to do the marketing bit, but how do you actually go and find someone to supply your products? So I did what any marketer would do, I think. I went to Google, Googled manufacturers and just went down the list, basically. And quite a few of them weren't interested. They didn't want to know. I had one company say to me that they gave me some pricing, and I basically said to them, well, the pricing you've just given me is essentially what you're selling for retail. Mm-hmm. So that obviously doesn't stack up, doesn't make any sense. And said, yeah, we don't really want to supply you because we don't want any competition. So it's a very strange. It was a very strange experience trying to get out there and find a supplier.
Yeah. But as a manufacturer, they didn't want a retailer selling their products.
So they manufactured, but they also sold direct to consumer as well. So they did both sides of it, and they didn't want more retailers, basically.
Okay. And now I'm assuming you're wiping the floor with them.
Oh yeah, we sell more car mats than they do now.
Yeah, funny that. So look, great, okay.
Well, that has actually been the manufacturing side is probably the bit I find the hardest. Mm-hmm. So we've got a great manufacturer, we've got a really good relationship with them now, but because we had such amazing growth, which was, I suppose I didn't expect the growth that we were going to get so quickly. It caused no end of problems on the manufacturing and the production side of things. So everything's made to order. So you place your order on the site, it goes to our manufacturer, and they'll dispatch it within a few days and get delivered to your door. But we ramped up from doing sort of no orders a day to 150, 200, and then during the lockdown, Black Friday, we were doing 500 orders a day. And they just couldn't cope, obviously, because it's manufacturing doesn't move quickly.
No. And there's a supply chain involved. The supply chain is called the supply chain for a reason. Is that when you start to scale up, there's issues with that because they need to order raw materials. Raw materials are often not made in the place where the products are made, and they need to be shipped through. And that was probably about the time that was it the Everglade or the Everrun or whatever got stuck in the Suez Canal? So everybody was having some, I run a car mats business based out of Sheffield. Yeah, what's the Suez Canal going to cause me any problem? Funny, it does, right? So there's a whole supply chain issue of things that as marketers we just generally don't worry about, do we? It's just just click that and people buy it and that's the shit done, right?
Yeah, totally. And you just don't think about it, and that's what causes the big issues. Is actually how do you scale it in a way that doesn't cause problems. Mm-hmm. And also there's that whole side of things of my supplier is great, but staying on top of what's happening, making sure that they are delivering in the timeframes we need to, and making sure that, hold on, we're getting behind. Do we need to turn orders down? And then you become that client that's like, oh yeah, you're doing really well with the sales, but actually, can we just turn it down a little bit because we can't keep up?
But it's true, and I think sometimes as marketers, we sit in. Number of times I've heard people say, oh, well, if we were too busy, that'd be a great problem to have. I understand where that comment comes from, but it's not actually a great problem to have. A problem is a problem. Having too many sales is just as big a problem as not having enough sales. And yes, it's a problem that comes with buckets of gold along with it as well. But angry customers suck in time, they suck in effort, they affect future sales because you get bad reviews.
Yep.
And yeah, I get that. When you have no sales, I get why you would rather have the problem of having too many sales. I fully understand that. But problems are problems, regardless of whether they come from one side of the house or the other. So how did you deal with that? Were you kind of leaning on the suppliers, working with them, trying to find new ones, just tethering demand? What was your approach to it?
So the big issue with the Carmax production is the machines they're cut on. So they're cut out of rolls of carpet, and a machine can only cut so many Carmax a day. So actually, to increase production, you need a new machine installed, which is a big expense for them.
Which is CapEx.
They need someone to man that machine, and then it's all the sewing to finish them by hand, where they need trained professional people to finish the product. So it's a hiring issue. Mm-hmm. So we worked with them really, and to be fair to them, quite quickly they realised that, hold on, this is going to go somewhere. So we want to take this seriously, and they did put out together a plan of, right, here's how we can increase volumes. Mm-hmm. But it was only after the shit hit the wall, basically. And we were like, oh, great. So it was the run up to Christmas last year, year before last. We had to stop selling for Christmas on something like the 2nd of December or something ridiculous, because we weren't convinced that anything we'd sell beyond that time would be delivered in time for Christmas.
And that must be excruciating for a business owner to look at peak time of year. This is the golden quarter. This is where we're going to do we got to pull up the drawbridge and not sell anymore. So did you just chalk that up as to a very costly lesson for the business?
Yeah, it was a costly lesson. Sales were, in some ways, if you think about it, if we had a constrained production, we would only have done those sales over a longer period. So it probably didn't cost us a huge amount because we could never have delivered those additional orders.
What I'm thinking at the minute, though, now you're talking about Christmas presents of Carmax, give me, let's put our marketing hats on for a minute and give me your buyer persona, or maybe your consumer persona, right? Who are the people out there who want Carmax for Christmas? Because if someone bought me Carmax for Christmas, while I would probably say thank you to their face and go, oh, that's lovely, really thoughtful of you, thank you. As they left the room, I'd be just like, who wants Carmax for Christmas? Tell me this, Ash.
I've got two personas that buy Carmax for Christmas, right? So maybe three. So one is like middle-aged man, Keith, say, and he wants Carmax for Christmas. So his wife might buy him Carmax.
I'm only laughing because as soon as you said middle-aged man who likes Carmax, the one person in my mind who came to mind was called Keith. Hi, Keith.
So Keith would like to have Carmax for Christmas, so his wife buys him Carmax. But then that also flips the other way, right? Because Keith would like Carmax for Christmas, Keith mistakenly buys his wife Carmax for Christmas, which happens quite a lot.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
right.
And I look at those orders and I go, "You're not going to have a good Christmas day, mate. It's not going to end well for you."
But is this not an opportunity? Do you not have could you not go back to them and offer them a cancellation service? Listen, like the Christmas elf, Ash's Christmas elf. Listen, mate, your wife doesn't want Carmax for Christmas. You've just paid 50 quid. You can cancel the order and you will refund you 40 quid. And you're just making a tenner for sending them an email and saving their Christmas. It would be the best 10 quid you'd ever spent.
Yeah, they might get a bit offended by it, though.
Better to be offended by you on the 2nd of December than be slapped by the wife on the 25th of December, surely.
True.
It's a service. If you were truly customer-oriented, that would be what you'd be doing.
Yeah. And then the third one is like parents buying for their younger kids when they're like just about to pass their test or about to get a car or...
Gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, so there you. And is that that's your Christmas personas, or is that kind of all year round personas, or the rest of the time?
The all year round. It's one of those products that anyone buys. So the persona is, you can. There's a few different personas. It's for us. It's not really about the personas. It's about the life events that trigger someone to buy Carmax.
Okay.
So our customers pretty much evenly spread across age, sex, etc. There's no actual from what we can see, there's no sort of like core buying persona.
Mm-hmm.
But what does trigger it is actually why are they buying the Carmax. So it's either people who have just got a new car and need Carmax to protect it, people who have worn out their Carmax, which is actually quite rare because people wear out Carmax and then just leave them until they've literally got a hole in.
Yeah.
People gifting. And then the last one is my favorite one, is people buying Carmax because they're either selling or returning their lease car and they want to return it with new Carmax so they don't get charged for new Carmax. Right,
because it's cheaper to buy them from you than have the garage stick the arm in for 400 quid for new car mats.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah, I know that. I changed 2 tires when I was handing a car back once for the same reason, and they still tried to charge me for the tires as well. So, car garages being bastards. Who knew?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. So you've got you know who buys and why they buy. So take us through the your direct to consumer business, your DTC business. So. Take us through the journey, but you started from scratch. You were not manufacturing and then flipping from manufacturing into retailing. You were a new business. You were owning the manufacturing process, but not necessarily doing it yourself. So you started off with no sales, but had to grow from scratch. So how did you go from you've got no customers, no visits, no business to turning over 4 million in a couple of years?
Spend a lot of money on ads is the short answer. The long answer is we scaled it. So we tested. In that first slice, we launched in May 2020. That first month, we launched the site and we did what I wish actually a lot of our clients would do, is that we launched the site with nothing on it. So the only product that was populated when we actually launched it was Ford Focus. So you could buy, I think, 4 products on the site. We set up the rest of the site. So it looked like a real site. Had a full menu, but none of the links went anywhere. And we initially set about with some Google ad campaigns, directing people in who were looking to buy Ford Focus mats straight into the product pages they were interested in to see what worked. And then we iterated I say we, this was all me at this time. We changed all the product copy, imagery, ad copy until we found something that resonated. And actually people started buying. So I remember that sort of first week, I was shitting myself because we weren't selling anything. And I'd kind of publicly at the time said, I'm going to do this thing. And I was like, oh God, I might not actually be able to do this thing. This is a nightmare. Then it started to work. And I remember like bounding down the stairs in the morning to see the kids. And like, oh, guess how many car mats we sold yesterday? We sold 3. Yay! Like, so excited. And that's how we iterated it basically. So we did the same for the whole of the Ford range. So we populated all that next and advertised all their models. And then we did a few other random models to check that we weren't missing a trick, like the stuff we were doing only worked with Ford owners. And then once we'd done that, we basically systematically just scaled out through every model and manufacturer. Let
me jump in and ask a couple of questions here then. So firstly, why did you go with Ford first? Why not? I thought, look, Ford's a big brand, a popular brand, but why not say Vauxhall or Citroen or Volkswagen? What was it about Ford that stood out to you? And sometimes, look, it just felt right is a perfectly good answer, but what was the reason behind it?
So we went with Ford, and actually we went with Tesla, Model 3 at the same time. And the reason we went for those 2 cars is that's what we had in the family at the time.
I see.
So from a product knowledge point of view, of people saying, I don't know how to fit it, or what's this, or we knew all the answers. And it also let us understand what sort of questions people ask and know confidently that we were telling them the right answer. And that then applies across everything, right? Yeah.
Can I make some wild assumptions here? Is it you who drives the Tesla and your other half who drives the Ford? Yeah. You kind of fit the profile of a Tesla driver. Business owner of a certain age, drives Tesla shop. Yeah. So, anyway, sorry, carry on.
It's fine. It's boring, isn't it? It's tax efficient, so I can't complain.
My second question is common sense why you picked those 2. And then I suppose, before I ask my second question, when you started scaling out to other brands, was there any science behind that, or was it just based on what you thought were going to be popular?
We so Deca Evoluted did a load of keyword research for me to figure out actually what there was the most search volume for, and then we basically scaled it out in the order of the search volume.
Yeah. And did that match broadly this sort of sales? So were you finding the more popular car brands, I think I mentioned Volkswagen and Vauxhall, were above the Peugeots and Citroens and Kias, or was there anything that surprised you in there? You're like, oh, Maserati.
Yeah, it mainly does. What is the outlier is where a brand doesn't supply Carmax. So if you were to go and buy like a Golf or an A3, it'll probably come with Carmax in it.
Right.
If you go and buy a Hyundai, you ain't going Carmax unless you pay extra.
I see.
So the search on some brands is noticeably higher because people have no choice but to buy Carmax either from the dealer or from you.
Gotcha. And for the benefit of both our listeners in America, a Hyundai, I believe you call Hyundai, in a rather hateful way of pronouncing the word. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. The other question I had is about you're pushing to ads. So you decided to launch with ads. Now, launching with ads obviously involves spending money up front before you know sales are going to come in. How did you budget for that? Not as in where did you find the money from? How did you sort of come to a figure in your mind that said, this is what I'm going to spend, I'm going to invest testing this business?
So the figure I came to was $5,000 because I was quite happy with that. And actually, even if we spent the $5,000 and we found out that actually it's not working, we'd probably spend another $5,000. It wasn't unreasonable given what we'd invested in terms of time and resources to build the site. In terms of like cash flow and stuff like that, I was quite fortunate that I had payment terms with my supplier. So from a direct consumer brand, I take the order, I get the money, I place the order with my supplier, and actually I'm generating free cash flow for a period, which actually helps scale the ads.
You're like Amazon. They're another business that do that. They have, I think they call it something like a negative cash flow, something or other. They sell the product, excuse me, and pay the suppliers way after that, and that helps them bankroll doing various other things. So it's a great place to be if you are going to do that. Yeah,
and it worked really well. And I think the supplier bought into us from day one. I think we then exceeded that, but because they bought into where we wanted to go and the numbers we were talking about and how we were going to get there, it meant that actually stuff like, not having to pay on order and actually getting terms made things a lot more achievable.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then, so as you scaled that, so you've spent the money to test it, then did you quite quickly move to a more traditional model of customer acquisition costs and using that as your key metric for your ads?
So we've got a really simple product range. So actually we focus on a return on ad spend because we've got a unified margin across the products. Mm-hmm. So we've got a base margin. We know where we are. So we can target a return on ad spend, and we know that across the range we're good. Whereas if you were, I suppose, a retailer that's selling lots of different products, it gets a lot more complicated, doesn't it? When you've got different margin requirements on different products, we need it to be profitable from day one. So Carmax we do get repeat customers, but we're not expecting people to come back every month. They might come back once or twice a year.
Yeah. Well, you may well be looking at my questions here, because that was something I wanted to talk to you about customers and data and loyalty, repeat purchases, because if you are spending, and ads play a huge part in your business at the minute. So if you're spending to recruit a customer, do you do anything to look at lifetime value, to drive repeat sales, to get them to recommend? How do you see that? Or is that kind of planned for the next 2 years?
So at the moment we're taking a lot of data. That's something we really stepped up last year in terms of what data we take and encouraging users to opt into marketing. So we now have a reg lookup on the homepage, which is actually probably the most used area of the site. So you pop your reg in, you get your Carmax recommendations. Mm-hmm. We give you a nice little incentive to give us your email address. And then at that point, we have your email address and your registration number. So we can sell you Carmax until the cows come home via email. But essentially, we're not massively monitoring lifetime value at the moment because we've grown so quickly. Mm-hmm. It is something that we're starting to look at and starting to look at encouraging users to make repeat purchases where it might be a gift for family, or so certainly around sort of like Father's Day, for example. It'll be a big one. We're going to do a big push around Father's Day.
Classic dad gifting. New
Classic
Carmax.
dad gift. Yeah, precisely.
And a CD of rock driving anthems or something like that to go with it.
Precisely.
There's an add-on product. Get that in. Get that on your add-ons.
Yeah, and some of the things that have stopped us doing that until more recently is things like we've not had the embroidery available.
Mm-hmm.
Because we scaled so quickly, we've not really been able to offer embroidery because we couldn't keep up with the demand we had. So we've only managed to squeak that out in November in time for Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
But now it's a giftable product, right? Because you can put, dad's taxi or whatever you want on the mats.
Yeah, classic. So tell us about that. So you use Shopify as your tech stack sounds quite a grand term, website partner. You use Shopify Premium or Plus or whatever, Pro, whatever it's called. But that you use that for a reason. So tell us about those reasons, but also tell us about how you look at, you've got different product ranges and upsells and on-sells and things like that within the business. Because if you go to carmax.co.uk, I would say, look, go and have a look at the site if you are interested in marketing, even if you're not going to buy any car mats, although you should do. I'm on a 10% commission. Is that right? For anyone who buys using code #strategy sessions. That's a joke, by the way. But if you go and have a look at the site, because the way there's different products and different premium-based products and upsells. So talk us through all of that. So Shopify first and then the upsells and upsells.
So I chose Shopify originally because I wanted to be able to do it all myself in lockdown. The team were busy doing client work, and I wanted to be able to set up the site and get up and running. And actually, Shopify allowed me to do that. So Shopify is great. Obviously, it's all hosted. It's a software as a service. So you literally just you can click a few buttons and you're up and selling. So from that side of things, it's brilliant. It takes away the infrastructure. But the other thing that really attracted me is the ecosystem and how many integrations there are. So whether it be payment providers, whether it be some of the upsell stuff that we do, it's all there available. And if you do a bit of research, you can find some really good partners. And we've been using apps now for a couple of years, and they've been faultless, basically. So yeah, Shopify. I'm a massive believer in Shopify. I'm a signed up like convert, love it. I think if we hadn't been using Shopify, I think it would have been harder to scale the business.
I saw something that Barry Adams, the SEO legend and friend of mine, posted on LinkedIn the other day about Core Web Vitals. And I'm not going to go down a technical rabbit hole about it, but it was basically how certain websites perform against Core Web Vitals. And Shopify was miles in front of WordPress, and had even gone in front of AMP, which was what Barry was talking about, was you'd be better using Shopify than AMP pages. But it's interesting how I think a few years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, people, SEOs were going, don't use Shopify, it's crap for SEO. And there's obviously somebody there really pulled out all the stops really to improve the product, hasn't it? So you find it fantastic to use, and you're a big advocate.
A big advocate. I think from the SEO side of things, the team there are doing a great job. They're making loads, like even in the time we've had the site, there's been loads of great improvements on the SEO front. Some of the new themes they've brought out are so quick, it's insane. Mm-hmm. And even our site, there's areas that we want to make quicker, but actually you can go on most of the pages and they all load instantly, and there's a lot of data behind that site. Yeah, and you can't tell what's actually happening. And one of the things
plugins as well and things.
Great. Yeah, they don't get enough credit for sort of like the caching system behind the product pages and the site generally is insane. Mm-hmm. You can't tell it's there, but it is there.
Yeah. And from a technical side, a lot of people starting businesses maybe don't pay enough attention to that. But I think if you're going to take it seriously, it's a real key consideration, isn't it, as you start to scale a business. So you've gone from running a business of high-fiving over 3 car mats a day to, you mentioned earlier, doing 500 a day, and you're on target to do 4 million in revenue. Is that right?
4 million in revenue in year 2. Yeah.
That's pretty damn impressive. I want to say pretty damn impressive. Bloody amazing, right? You're selling car mats. And so do you wake up some mornings and go, have I dreamt this? Have I been eating too much cheese? Is that what's going on?
It is a bit surreal when you think like, hold on, this, 2 years ago there was no business. Yeah. It's insane. But it's growing well and it's worked. I'm just going back to the original, the point you made about the upsell journey on the site. Mm-hmm. It works because of that journey. So a £20 set of car mats, there's no money in selling a £20 set of car mats. None. Our average order value is getting to start to touch over £40.
Brilliant.
So we upsell a good proportion of our customers either directly on the product page, where we show them all the options for their vehicle. So you can go, right, I've got the right car. Now what quality do I want? And then you can also then customize. So you can choose trims, embroidery, heel pads, and various other bits. So it's a little bit, it feels a bit dirty. It's kind of like the Ryanair approach, right? Where you've got a product that'll do the job, but actually if you want to actually make it a bit nicer or a bit more, a better experience, then you need to add on to it.
I would respectfully disagree with your approach to that. Not approach, sorry, with your take on that. Okay. What I think Ryanair do is they strip essentials out of the flight and charge you extra for them. What you're doing is you are providing the essential product. So your baseline product does what you need it to do. And then you can add on, if I would buy Carmax from you, I don't want them embroidered. I don't want colored trim. I just want something that's going to keep the shit off the floor of the car. That's all I'm interested in. Right? If I wanted to give them to the missus as a gift, I wanted a name embroidered and all that sort of stuff, or to my dad, that's an add-on. That's a benefit. The way Ryanair strip out their, baggage, for example, you're like, okay, yeah, you can have a seat for $9.99. That's wonderful. But I fly a lot, and I fly a lot with just a rucksack and hand luggage. And even that's difficult with Ryanair because they strip out, it's like, oh, you can fly the seat, there's this price. But it's like selling shoes without shoelaces is what they do. So I think there is a slight difference between the two that, you have a premium product for people who want to pay premium prices if that's what you want.
If that's them. Yeah. And then actually one of the things we've started doing in the last sort of like 9 months or so is we've started pushing those upgrades aggressively in the checkout as well. So we use a really cool app called Order Bump that when you're in the checkout basically pushes you up and encourages you to upgrade to that next quality.
So once you've got everybody's order in and you've pushed people through the system and they've ordered whatever mats they're going to order, reviews play a big part in this for you. And I think that there's reviews play a good part in lots of industries, but you talked to me about off camera about an issue with some of the photography as well. That maybe is why reviews play such a big role for you.
So I think, there's a few things really. So like the whole customer journey post order is really important to us. And I think that's something that a lot of direct consumer brands and just retailers get wrong anyway. So once you've placed an order with us, you go through a whole series of emails. So we first of all email to tell you that your order's entered production. So something's happening. And some of these emails are also for our benefit, right? So it's to stop customers asking what's happening, because it can take up to sort of 6-7 days for the order to leave the factory sometimes. So we want to make sure that customers know what's happening. So we send an email saying, it's in production. A few days later, they get an email telling them it's in finishing. It's about to leave. They obviously get an email saying it's been dispatched with all the tracking links in and who it's gone with, etc. And then a few days later, when the mats essentially should have been delivered based on when they were dispatched, etc., they get an email asking that everything's okay with their order. So we do this to basically because we care. We want to know if there's an issue, and a huge number of people reply to that email. It's lovely. So we get loads of people that say, yeah, got the mats, are amazing, you've made my day, or my car looks mega, thanks very much. But then you also get the people that go, well, actually, no, I've not had my mats yet, or I've got them and they don't fit. So it draws out, actually, it gives people an easy way to go, no, I'm not happy. And then you can solve that problem for them. Whereas otherwise, some of them might have just chalked up to a bad experience and gone and left a bad review in a week or two's time, or just gone away with a negative experience of the brand. And then when someone's saying, oh, I want to buy some Carmax, they'll say, oh, don't buy them from carmax.co.uk because, I had an issue with them. Yeah. Well, they wouldn't then go and do something about that issue. They'll just sort of have a bad experience. So the
classic British psyche, isn't it? Like, don't complain to someone who can sort it out. Complain to everyone else who can't do anything about it.
Precisely, yeah. So that is the email that gets the most traction for us, and then we invite everyone to leave a review a few days later. But by that point, we've solved nearly everyone's issues.
Yeah,
because they've had plenty of opportunity to tell us there's an issue. And we also do things like My pet peeve with emails is when people and companies send out emails from no reply addresses.
Yeah.
Why? Like, it's just unnecessary. So every email we send out, you can reply to, and it comes straight into our ticket system, and someone deals with it.
Yeah.
So we do a lot on that sort of like post journey, but the reviews part is probably the biggest deal for us. So when I launched the site, I knew that I wanted to get that sort of that trust factor of having the third party reviews. So right from day one, we launched with reviews.co.uk. So we had them as our partner, and we probably put the widget on the site, I think, when we'd got like 5 reviews or something like that, just to start to encourage people. We're knocking on 15,000 reviews now, which is absolutely amazing. And that, at this point, is such a huge trust factor. We've got 15,000 reviews, probably 14,500 5-star reviews that are all real and legit. And as a trust factor on the site, you look at that as a consumer and you look at that and go, all right, I can trust these guys.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, because we've got so many good reviews, the people that have an issue point to that and go, oh, I thought I could order from you guys because, you've got so many good reviews. It's like, well, problems do happen. No one's perfect. Yeah. It's how you then deal with that. But from a review point of view, we kind of put those emails in place early on because that's the feedback we were getting. We were doing what everybody else was doing. We were doing get an email when it's dispatched, you get asked to leave a review, and people were giving their feedback as a review. Like, oh, I don't know, my mats haven't turned up yet. It's like, well, don't leave that as a 1-star review.
Yeah, tell that to us, not
So we worked really hard to basically draw that out of people so that we could solve that problem without them having to leave a review. And then when they go and leave a review, it's now a really happy one because their problem's been sorted out. And more recently, we've done some stuff on the reviews where we encourage people to name the team. So the ones that have interacted with our team, we ask them in the review form to name whoever you were interacted with. Starts to make it feel more personable that, Kate was really good with me, or Helen was really good with me, or whoever it is.
I was dealing with Ash and he missed off apostrophes in his email.
Yeah. Or unfortunately, when you get someone that's really angry, they do go to town and, slam you, and that's normally me.
Yeah, that's all right. As long as it's you, that's okay.
It's fine. Yeah. And that's that sort of journey for me is the review side of things, customer feedback, and showing your potential customers that you can be trusted and you do deliver and you do essentially do what you say you're going to do. I mean, that's the bare bones of it, isn't it? Because no one trusts anything these days.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. And tell us about another area of trust or mistrust, perhaps, is social media. You obviously started with paid and you do put a lot of time into search. Does social play a role for you? What was the thought process behind it, if it does or if it doesn't?
So we have social accounts. We don't. This is going to sound really bad. We don't really post organically on our social account because getting engagement with class is fucking hard. When I say that,
yeah, absolutely. it's just a disaster on social media. I think Adidas don't post organically anymore, do they?
Oh well, I mean, people care about trainers. People don't care about Carmax. Do you know that's the fundamental issue, isn't it? Is that people buy Carmax from you, they want them, but they don't want to go and share or interact with your posts. So we don't post a lot organically, but we do a lot of paid social, and that works pretty well.
And does that, again, without getting into the numbers and the boring in and outs of it, but does the ROAS on paid social compare to Google? Is it more? Is it less? Does it change by channel? What channels are you using? Give us a bit of a flavour of that.
So in terms of ROAS, Facebook and Insta are probably better than Google. So certainly with the ads that we're running, a lot of it just obviously comes down on social to the creative. If you've got a bad creative, it's not gonna work. And that's one of the things we're doing at the moment is we're getting a lot of user generated content produced.
I was going to say, do you use reviews in that? Because it's not the most photogenic of products that you have. A good car mat and a great car mat and a shit car mat all look broadly the same it's a tactile thing, isn't it? It's in the feel when you get it. You can probably tell, you go, oh wow. But in a photograph, you can't really tell the difference between the £20 and the £40, can you? Hugely.
No. So we don't focus on the product specifications or benefits. We focus on, the Carmax protect your car, etc. We don't focus on the individual qualities or anything like that, because, like you say, you can't tell that on the screen.
Yeah.
But what we are using is a lot of the photos that customers give us when they leave reviews. So we ask for photos and videos. And we get quite a few of those. Some of them are awful. Some of them are like a nice new Carmax with a muddy footprint in the middle of it.
Real.
Yeah, it's like, well, I can't use that, thanks. So we use some of those photos. We've just gone out to a whole load of people and essentially gifted them Carmax to get good or better quality videos and stuff.
Influencer
like
marketing,
if you want to call it that.
It is, isn't it? It is. But I love the footprint. There's a couple of clients I've worked with where what the common agreement was the worst creative ever, the homemade looking stuff, outperformed the slick professional stuff the agency was putting together by a million miles. And that realness of the muddy footprint in the middle of the mat, I'd test it, man. You're a tester. That's what you do.
Yeah, it's something we will be testing. So we've got a few. We're going to do a few slick ones, but then we're getting a lot of user-generated content. The ad that we run the most at the moment is one that we filmed outside our office in like 5 minutes. Yeah, it's literally just as putting a set of Carmax into Amber evoluteds into her car. Yeah. And it gets so much engagement. And you're probably right about the muddy one. So it gets loads of engagement because we didn't clean a car before we put the Carmax in. So we've got her taking out her old filthy Carmax and putting the new Carmax in, but the car, right, is still filthy. Yeah. So she gets loads of comments, and actually some quite abusive comments about, like, how dirty the car is and should have cleaned it first. And it's like,
people on social media are arseholes, right? I remember the Queen's sister, whose name I've completely forgotten, but anyway, Princess whatever her face is the patron of Scottish Rugby Union. And during lockdown, when there was nobody in the ground, posted a picture on social media of her and her husband cheering on Scotland. I think it was in the Calcutta Cup against England or whatever, right? And she's the patron, she's getting on board, she's come on Scotland and all that. Half the comments are like, oh, well, your drawing room's a bit untidy. Look at how many books you've got piled up. It's like, piss off and leave her alone. It's like, I thought royalty would be tidier than that. Have you not got anyone to tidy? We're like, all right, so how's your perfect life doing? Bugger off and leave people.
That is social media summed up, isn't it? Like, you post something and someone will have a pop at you for it.
Yeah. Although I am going to go on a social media rant now, sorry. The one thing that annoys me more than that on social media, I saw somebody saying Top of the Pops should be brought back. The BBC, as part of their license fee, has to bring Top of the Pops back. And then underneath it was a whole bunch of people of my sort of vintage and older complaining that pop music isn't as good as it used to be. And I mean, like, if there's one thing that boils my piss more than anything else, it's people getting old and complaining pop music isn't as good. It's like, no, you're just getting old. That's all. Yeah. Pop music is as good or as bad as it's always been. It's always been brilliant. It's always been shit. It's you that's getting old. Now, bugger off. Yeah. Sorry. Let me just calm down.
It's all right. You feel better now?
I do. I've got that off my chest now. Thank you. Anyway, so carmax.co.uk. Let's just get back to the subject matter. One of the things that's been really interesting about this whole journey is you've been learning in public. You've been sharing a lot on social media. How does that feel? You said at first, you had that sort of awkward feeling of, oh, what if this doesn't work? But, is it still awkward, even though it's been a raging success, to share in your learnings and your successes and your failures in public?
Yeah. I mean, I plan to share, to be honest. I plan to share a lot more than I did. I planned to do a lot more, but then as the business just went crackers, there was no time. So I just went straight out the window. But I still share. I share things that are going well. I share things that haven't gone so well. I do enjoy sharing customer reviews where people are laying into us and mostly being unreasonable. But yeah, it's been. I had the fear at the start that it wasn't going to work, because I said I was going to do this. I think I said I was going to get it to £1 million in a year. And I had a massive fear that, hold on, I'm going to fall flat on my face, and I'm not going to do that. But as soon as I realised I was going to get close, it was happy days. And I really enjoy sharing and talking about what we're doing and how we're doing things. The only thing that's put me off a little bit is how many people then copy what you do. But the people that are copying, they're never gonna.
Yeah.
It really just annoys me because ultimately they're never going to do a good job because they're just copying what you're doing, right?
How many car-mats.co.uk have been registered or taken up? Just like, oh.
Yeah. So someone sent me a new one today that launched at Christmas, and the chap behind it's done a TikTok video where he talks about how he's going to share his journey of launching a Carmax business. I'm just like, all right, mate. Thanks.
Okay. Right. Yeah. It's but the thing is that to bring it to marketing again, people talk about competitive advantage, and I'm not entirely sure competitive advantage exists in the way most people think they do. There's the odd case study of major brands where you hear about competitive advantage, which makes people think if you get this competitive advantage, it lasts for 8 years, 10 years while everyone else catches up. In most places, competitive advantage is so transient. It's like weeks or months you could probably measure it in. But the way you can truly get a competitive advantage is dragging in several different factors and putting them all together that then allow you to go ahead. So, someone can copy your website, they can rip it off exactly and just sit and try and copy it bit for bit. But unless they've got the customer post-sales process, unless they've got the manufacturing built into it, unless they've got the delivery built into it, and the reviews connected to it, then they're not going to close that gap hugely in a competitive advantage. And trying to copy several bits that come together to make like the golden circle of competitive advantage, that's really, really difficult to do. So you can almost give them the keys to the house if you like and go, yeah, go and copy it. And they can't, because the reality is there's a lot of moving parts that come together to form what is this successful business.
Yeah, well, I did an interview with Dan Barker like in the early days where I like basically laid down exactly all the apps I'd used, what I'd done, etc. And there must have been 4 or 5 people who've taken that as a playbook.
Yeah,
and like you say, they've got a website. That's it. You haven't got anything else that comes with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, any idiot can build a website, but building a business is a different thing. So
yeah, and then they miss what gets me is the fundamentals that people miss because they've not thought about it. They've just gone, right, well, we're going to do that. We'll look at what they're doing. We'll do the same. They miss all the stuff that's non-obvious.
Yeah, and I say this to people all the time. Like I use the line, "Stop copying your competitors. They don't know what they're doing either." But there's a little bit like you see people copying other things that people are doing. Like, oh, yeah, but you can see they've done this thing. Do you know if it worked? No. Well, but why are you copying it then if you don't know it's been a roaring success? Oh, we know the business was a success. Yeah, but did that thing contribute to the success? Because not everything you've done over the years worked. Some things you've tried didn't work and you've stopped doing. And I just don't understand this obsession with copying, trying to take shortcuts. It's like,
I don't. It drives me partly with clients. Like it sounds like it does for you when you sit down and they go, "Oh, we want to do this," and it turns to its competitors doing it.
You can feel my pain, can't you? That's what you can feel as pain in this.
Yeah, it's like if it's not going to work, why do it? So there's things that we've tried that we've looked at and gone, well, actually, we don't want to do that. So no, I'm going to take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of things you've learned over the time, and I want to get into the point where I want to sing the top tip theme tune. So I'm going to throw that at you right now. But do you have what I'm going to ask you for is a top tip for direct to consumer businesses, DTC brands who are maybe starting out that journey now? There's a lot of things that you've looked at over the time. There's a lot of errors and mistakes you've made. So if you had one top tip for them, or one TOPTIP, what would that be?
So my top tip, I suppose, would be that customer service side of things. It sounds obvious, right? I'm saying it sounds like the most obvious thing in the world. But when I go and look at, for example, some of the guys that have come along and tried to copy the Carmax site, you go look at their reviews and they're getting hammered because they don't reply to emails, they don't understand the product, they don't treat people well, they don't treat people fairly. So I think a lot of it comes down to, understanding your customers, treating them well, responding to them. So one of the things that we don't really talk about is that we offer 7 days a week customer service. I replied to customer emails on Carmax on Boxing Day. There's not many of our competitors that even opened over Christmas, and there's certainly none of them that reply to emails at weekends. Whereas we realized early on that if you treat your customers well and you respond to them quickly and you answer their queries, they buy into the brand, they buy into you, they recommend you, it all gels together. So for a direct consumer brand, that's got to be number one. You get that right, and then any customers you're bringing in, you keep in sweet.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. No, I love that. And the focus on your customer. I did a training session with a company just first day back after Christmas, and we were looking at how you build an organization that is market oriented, as opposed to they're quite product oriented at the minute, and with good reason, right? And it's an easy place to slip into, and they're a bit sales oriented as well, which is again a very easy place to slip into. But they're trying to be more market oriented, and things like that are absolutely the perfect thing to do. How do you put the customer at the center of everything that you're doing? So
no, and actually, over Christmas, because I don't do a lot of customer support anymore, I really enjoyed it because I was like, all right, you're having a problem with this, or that's not very obvious, or we need to fix this. And actually, I've come away from that with a list of things to go away and sort out.
I know a few people who have relatively senior jobs in retailers, high street retailers who you would know of, and that's relatively senior job. Sit at head office and drink lots of coffee and talk important meetings, that type of thing. And every year they go and spend a significant number of days out in the store with a shirt on, selling to customers, being part of the team, and just hearing firsthand what that is. And those days are, there's a little bit of symbolism involved with them, undoubtedly, having the top team coming down to do that. I get that. But there's a little bit of, let's hear firsthand the problem that the people who walk through the door have, because it's amazing what you learn from that. So having your finger on the pulse, or staying close to the coalface. I mean, you're in South Yorkshire, so let's use that one. Staying close to the coalface is really, really important, isn't it, to understand what's going on?
Yeah, I think just having that knowledge and seeing firsthand, like, what issues are people having? Why can't people check out? And we've done things over the years, like from customer feedback. I think on our basket, for example, it used to say checkout, and then Shopify adds all the payment options, so PayPal, Google Pay, Apple Pay, whatever it is. And we've had a couple of people not understand that they can pay by credit card by pressing checkout. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to pay by those options, so how do I pay? And it's little things like that. So changing the wording of the button as a result of that.
Yeah.
But you would never find that feedback out any other way other than talking to customers.
Never lose money talking to your customers. And that is a great place to sort of wrap up on. So, like, I've also seen the time and I've kept you far too long. So 2 more questions to finish, because nobody gets away without these 2 questions. So question number 1, what books, podcasts, newsletters, what would you recommend people read to stay on top of DTC, marketing, whatever you'd recommend?
So I used to read a lot. As I've got busier, I've got a bit lazy and I don't read as much anymore. So I turn to Twitter for my news of what's going on, and I listen to quite a lot of podcasts on the journey to work. Mm-hmm. And in the days that I go to the office, which is a lot rarer now. Yeah. My favorite podcast is Marketing Freaks, obviously, except for yours, Andy.
Absolutely, right answer. Otherwise, this episode will never see the light of day.
Is Marketing Freaks by John Quinton, Overdrive Digital. That's really, really good. He's trying to have a bit of fun with it as well. He started to have his podcast in the pub.
Pubcast, can't beat them. Cannot beat them. A little bit of background and an effects mic, and works wonders.
Yeah, but that's a really good listen, and they sort of like deep dive into lots of different areas of marketing, basically. As the title says, Marketing Freaks. It's
brilliant. Yeah. No, and a new one to the list as well. So I'll add that in. So thank you very much. And then the last question that everybody gets asked is, what one question do you usually get asked that I haven't asked you today?
Well, the question you haven't asked, but I kind of like touched on a little bit earlier, is how do you find a supplier? How do you go out there? How do you deal with the real world? Because marketers, right, we're good at looking at a screen. If we can do it on a computer, then it's amazing. Yeah. But how do you find a supplier? How do you negotiate with a supplier? How do you do all of these things?
Did they bring you down to the factory and show you around?
Yeah, I've done several factory tours, and
manufacturers love that. Come down and have a look, and I love it. I think you get a sense for a place that you just cannot find unless you turn up, park in the car park, walk around, have them tell you about the product and rub it between your fingers. I love that.
Yeah, we haven't because of COVID, but we're taking all our support team this year to the factories to basically understand the process.
You know how to treat a team.
Carmax factory tour.
We're on a day out, we're going to go and look at carpets in a factory. Come on, everybody. There'll be people in London screaming, going, I told you bloody South Yorkshire was horrible. And it's like, it takes them to a factory. I bet they still have chimneys and stuff up there, don't they? It's all right, Londoners. Come up north. It's a beautiful part of the world, much better than down south.
I remember the first time I went to the factory, it was really hot. And obviously factory is a hot place anyway, right? So it was a really hot day, really sunny. And there was a guy running a cutting machine, really big lad. And he just had a high-vis vest on. I was like, you could probably do some more clothes on, mate. This isn't a good look. And not what we want to see as we're walking around the factory.
Great social media content. That's it. Here I am on my TikTok video showing you around the factory.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the question that everyone asks me. That it's like, how do you find a supplier? And the answer is go and talk to people. Don't be like, pick up the phone. Don't email people, because they get 10 emails a day. They go into the junk. They miss them. Pick up the phone. If there's someone local, go and knock on the door. Right, and do you know what I mean?
Can you imagine that? You can tell you're not a millennial. You use your phone for ringing people and you knock on people's door without texting them first to tell them you're coming. Wow!
Yeah, just go visit. Like, if you can't get through, go talk to someone in reception and say, like, we want to do this. How do we do it?
Yeah, brilliant. And I honestly, old school. It's my school is the old school. So yeah, I'm down with that. Love it. Absolutely. Listen, Ash, thank you very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and good luck with the next couple of years of Carmax.co.uk, and as your mission to 40 or 400 million becomes a reality.
Thanks very much, Andy. Yeah, don't think we'll get to 400 million, but yeah, we'll see where we get to.
Ambition. Cheers, Ash. Thanks a lot. See you later.
See ya. Bye.